Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're unpacking something absolutely fantastic, and honestly, incredibly practical. We are going to be exploring the Wiktionary entry for a fascinating concept known as Chesterton's fence. If you've ever, felt that sudden urge to instantly change a rule, scrap some old policy, or completely overhaul a system just because it felt a little outdated, well, this is exactly the explainer you need. It's one of those foundational concepts that sounds super simple on the surface, but man, it is profound when we start talking about change, rules, and how we actually govern our society.
So, to really hook into this idea, I want you to imagine a scenario. Picture this. You're walking through a field, just going about your day, and suddenly, right in the middle of nowhere, completely blocking your path, is a fence. It's just sitting there. It doesn't seem to be attached to anything at all, and to your modern eyes, it is serving literally no purpose whatsoever. Your very first instinct? Probably to just tear it down and clear the way. I mean, why let it slow you down, right? But wait. Before you touch it, you have to ask yourself one thing. Why is this fence here? That single, incredibly simple question is the absolute core of this concept, and it perfectly sets up the philosophical mystery we're going to unravel together today, looking at how this applies way beyond just a few wooden posts in a field.
To really grasp the depth of this idea, we've got to look at where the term actually comes from. Because, spoiler alert, it isn't just some modern corporate jargon. It originates directly from a parable crafted by the early 20th century writer G.K. Chesterton. Now, as we know, parables are these brilliant little tools meant to teach us really complex lessons through very simple, digestible stories. And this parable of the fence, well, it's become one of Chesterton's most enduring legacies. Why? Because it captures this universal human flaw, our total arrogance in assuming we somehow know better than the people who came before us.
Let's look a little closer at the exact etymological roots here. It states that the term comes from Chesterton's parable, suggesting that one should not remove a fence until one learns why it was erected in the first place. I really want to linger on this exact phrasing for a second, because the literal imagery here is just so powerful. Think about it. Imagine someone in the past spending their time, their sweat, their hard-earned resources to build a physical barrier. Even if you, the observer walking by today, cannot fathom the reason for it right now, a reason absolutely existed at the time it was built. The strict rule here? You do not remove that physical barrier until you learn its original purpose, period.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we pivot from that very literal wooden fence in the ground to its abstract application in our modern world. On one side, we have the physical fence, right? A literal barrier erected for a specific reason. But on the flip side, we translate that into the existing state of affairs, specifically looking at things like current public policy. And honestly, the brilliance of this concept is how it effortlessly bridges that simple farming metaphor with highly complex human systems. A law, a municipal rule, a long-standing corporate tradition. These are all invisible fences. They're structures erected in society for a reason, even if that reason has kind of been lost to time.
And that brings us to how this is officially categorized as a principle of reform. This entirely elevates the concept. It isn't just some quirky saying you throw around at a dinner party to sound smart. It's framed as a crucial, absolute, foundational principle for anyone looking to make changes to existing systems or rules. Whether you're a newly elected official trying to change public policy, a manager taking over a brand new department, or honestly just someone trying to reorganize a local community group, this principle acts as your ultimate guide. If you want to reform something, this concept literally demands to be the very first thing you consult.
So the crucial point is right here in the formal dictionary definition. Chesterton's fence is defined as the principle that reform should not be made until the reasoning behind the existing state of affairs is understood. I want to surgically break this down for a second because the wording is incredibly deliberate. Notice the sequencing here. It heavily emphasizes the word understood before it even allows for the word reforms to take place. Understanding is the absolute prerequisite to reform. You cannot, under this principle anyway, just skip straight to changing things just because you feel like it.
Let's actually isolate these heavy-hitting keywords so we can really understand the mechanics of this idea. We've got four main pillars here: public policy, reforms, existing state of affairs, and understood. And these pillars perfectly visually represent the natural tension between changing things and comprehending them. On the one hand, you have the existing state of affairs, the current reality of a public policy. On the other hand, you have the reforms, your big desire to improve or change that reality. The only safe bridge between that present state and your future reforms is that final pillar, ensuring the current state is totally understood. If you remove that pillar, the whole structure of reform just collapses.
And this brilliantly illustrates the high stakes of what we're actually talking about here. We are directly contrasting blind reform against informed reform.
I mean, think about the sheer danger of careless, blind reforms. Tearing down the fence just because you assume the original builders were foolish or ignorant, that can lead to massive, unintended disasters. Maybe that literal fence was keeping out a dangerous predator. Maybe that obscure public policy you hate is quietly preventing a major economic loophole. The safety of waiting, of actively choosing informed reform, protects us from our own modern arrogance. It forces us to pause, take a breath, and respectfully acknowledge that the people who established the existing state of affairs probably had a pretty rational reason for doing so.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the ultimate takeaway. The core lesson here is the mandatory requirement of understanding before acting. And notice that this is not just a light suggestion, it is a strict rule. It doesn't say you should try to understand before acting or that it would be nice to understand if you have the time. No, it dictates that comprehension absolutely must precede action. You literally have to earn the right to change a system by first demonstrating that you fully, totally grasp why the system currently looks the way it does.
To make this perfectly actionable, let's walk through this clear, step-by-step mandatory order of operations that is dictated by the definition of Chesterton's fence. Step 1. Observe the existing state of affairs. Notice the fence. Acknowledge the policy. Step 2. Understand the reasoning behind it. Do the historical research. Ask the right questions. Figure out exactly why it was erected in the first place. And then, only then, and honestly, only if you find that the original reason is no longer valid or necessary, are you permitted to move to Step 3. Implement reforms. You follow these steps in this exact order every single time you want to make a change. No skipping ahead.
Which brings us to the final Socratic punch I want to leave you with today. I want you to apply this directly to your own life and your own decisions. Take a look at your workplace, your community, your local government. What fences are you tearing down without understanding why they were built? It is so entirely human to want to innovate, to clear the path, to immediately dismantle what seems outdated or inefficient to our modern eyes. But before you swing the sledgehammer on an existing state of affairs, remember this simple rule of reform. Learn why the fence was erected first. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helps you approach change with just a bit more curiosity. See you next time.